Hello and welcome to the Uneducated PT Podcast with me, your host, Carl O'Rourke. The goal of this podcast is to bring on interesting and knowledgeable people from all walks of life, learn a little something from each conversation, and for you, the listener, to learn something from each episode. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel, press the box below, show some support, and I'll see you on the next First question, I think we're going to go into a few different topics, but I wanted to talk to you about running the length of Ireland and this big challenge that you have coming up. But before we go into that, you've took on this challenge, but you're also recovering from a hip surgery. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I started running 2018 and all was kind of going pretty good and I was just enjoying it, tipping away. I had no fucking idea what I was doing. I was just like, no, we'll run a bit further today and we just keep stacking it up and see where we go to. And I ran a marathon and all that. And then I was like, fuck it, John, we'll go and we'll run 100 miles. And I talked one of my mates into running 100 miles a couple of weeks later. And fucking broke me in half. But I kind of was like, I just wanted to keep going with this. I didn't really know what I was searching for at the time. And then I got to the point where I entered a 200 mile race and I ran that, and then my hip was like, that is terrible. I'm in so much pain. And I basically had I had hip pain from 2019 till basically up until 4 weeks ago. So I've had pain in the hip. Now it wasn't excruciating pain, right? So it's not. Anybody who has what I have, which is called a femoroacetabular impingement, right? That's a good fucking mouthful.
You wouldn't know that unless you've had it.
Yeah, there wouldn't be many people just fucking bopping around the gaff with that type of knowledge, you know. But that's what I had anyway, right? And what it is it's like I had a combine one, right? Which means that I have growths on my femur and on the socket as well. So I had growths rubbing off growths, right? Which was just awful for running, basically, because it makes you really bad at running, right? Because it just basically, what happens then is your body is like, I don't want you to move this hip anymore. So it just fucking wraps loads of tight muscle around it, and you're just like, you start having a limp and stuff, right? So that's what was happening to me. So it'd flare up, blow up, fucking hip would get super tight. I'd be limping around the place. I wouldn't be able to walk for 2 or 3 days, and then it would kind of settle down again. And it was happening, recurring, and it did not matter what I did. I tried everything. And I am one of those people, if I get something into my fucking mind, I will attack it, with everything I have. And I will rest it. I rested it for months, rest in terms of didn't put any major load on it, was trying to rehab it, did everything. And I finally got an MRI and it showed that I had the growths, right? Showed that I had an FAI is what it is for short. And your mum was like, look, you can mess around with all this kind of stuff. Your cartilage is showing a bit of wear and tear, and that's not good, by the way. And you have this femoroacetabular impingement as a grant. Sat on it for a couple of months. I was like, fuck it, I just kind of keep going, see where I go. And it just wasn't getting any better. So I was like, look, let's do this. I just want to run, and I want to have that freedom back, and I want to be able to grow within running. I honestly, from when I finished that 200 miler, I peaked.
Hit a wall.
I peaked then, and I just skated along. And people would be like, Jesus, you've done a lot in running or whatever, but I've never really been able to stitch together a good training block. I've never been able to prepare properly to the level that I wanted to.
Was this aggravating you when you did obviously we speak about this challenge, but remember the last challenge you did was the 32 marathons in 32 counties, wasn't it? Or 36, sorry.
Yeah. 32 mountains. 32 marathons, 32 counties, 32 pounds.
And was this affecting you then?
Yeah. So it was affecting me all the time. So everything I have done in running, it was affecting me. So not necessarily, it might not be excruciating pain throughout the whole thing, but it did get me to that point where I wasn't able to run in training blocks every time. So every time I'd put a couple of months together to train for something, I'd always have weeks where I was out. Or I'd always have months sometimes where I was out. And I was just trying to figure it out. Then I'd go back out and run again. It would get fucked again, and then so on and so forth. And so I never got to the point where I could actually level up. And I feel like, maybe naturally, just because I kept running over 5 years, I grew as a runner. And I tried my hand at trying to do, sub-3 marathon, tried my hand at trying to get better at ultra endurance and stuff, but it never really happened. And like, this is not a guarantee that this will be, you know, a gateway into having an injury-free block, because something tells me that maybe because my hip stops me from training to a load that's really high, it might have stopped me from getting other injuries. So other injuries could come up. So there's no real guarantees in this whatsoever, but it was just like, right, I just wanted to give it a try. Like, we have one shot at living life, and I don't want to fucking spend it thinking, fuck it, I should have, you know, gotten the surgery.
So someone who is very obsessed with pushing themselves to the limits in terms of their training, how difficult has it been in terms of the rehab for this? Because obviously that means you have to pull yourself back immensely.
Yeah, I think it's taught me an awful lot, man, to be honest. Like, even just like my relationship with running and where it's coming from and why I want to do it was something that was questioned so many times in this process.
Questioned by other people or by you?
By me. Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I never really listen to anybody else and fucking question why I'm doing anything. It's all to do with my own thoughts and perceptions of myself, of who I am.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, like it just slowed me down, and it just got me to the point where I was like, right, you know, I actually realised that I had such a great life, and I have a great life, and even without running, my life is fantastic. I wake up and I get to spend time with my son, and I run my own businesses. I don't have a boss. I have a beautiful, wonderful, supportive wife. I've got a great home. You know, I have all these things. So it really wasn't. For me, I think I would have struggled a few years ago.
Well, I was about to ask you, did that gratitude come from the process of running? Because did you have that before? Like, would you have had that awareness and that gratitude before you went on this journey in 2018 of running?
Yeah, no, I was not a grateful person at all for many years. Like, because I had a lot of things going on at a lot of different times in my life. I've been very... It's not necessarily that I've been very fortunate. I think I've worked at things quite often and have gotten the fruits of them, but never saw the fruits. Always wanted more, you know, always wanted more. And whatever it was, I wanted it to be the best, or me to be the best at it. And try and put that control over things that I can control. That was a huge fucking part of like figuring out that I really, you know, I don't have the control over everything, and I have to just learn I have to learn to kind of manage that.
Is that something that you're still managing, or do you feel like you're pretty got it nailed down, like even in terms of this injury?
Yeah, no, I think I've got it fairly, like, you know,
as much as you can.
Oh yeah, I've said this to my mate, like, that, you know, life is so unpredictable and can throw things at you at all times. So you don't know how you're going to act in a particular situation when something happens, like if something big happens, like, you know. But for all of the, like, I'm definitely a huge believer in not sweating the small stuff, and literally 99% of stuff we go through is the small stuff. Obviously, look, life fucks curveballs at us, you know, every now and then, and you have to deal with it as you go. But I think for me, I've gotten so much better at that. I used to catastrophize everything, like, and everything was the end of the world and everything was the worst and blah blah. And I feel like if I had still had that mentality through now, I'd be fucking at the end of my tether. Like.
Can I ask you, if someone's in a similar situation where they do catastrophize everything, how did you get out of that mindset?
I don't know exactly.
Yeah.
I do feel like when I started running, it was one of the first times in a long time where now people, and including me, and I've thought about this, I've meta-analysed myself so many times about, like, you know, distraction. It's like, is running another distraction? Yes, possibly, right? Could have been, and it probably is, right? That's park that to the side. But I distracted myself so much in my life with alcohol, with sex, with fucking these things that are just like so expedient and kind of meaningless, and they're distractions, they're wants, desires, right? And so when I started running, I moved away from a lot of that stuff. Now, it took me a while. It wasn't an overnight thing of I just put on the runners and I stopped doing that shit, like, you know what I mean? It took me a long time to kind of get out of those things, but running didn't save anything, but it might have just given me the arena, the environment to talk to myself and to realize that I'd actually been so horrible to myself for so long. Nothing was ever good enough. I was never, I could never satisfy the idea I had in my mind for myself. And I was constantly chasing that idea of happiness and that idea of like being the best version of myself. And it would have I never would have got there if I had continued in that vein of trying to best everything and get to that point. So where it started was actually just being happy with who I was. That's the fucking catalyst of everything. I wouldn't have a son, I wouldn't have a wife, I wouldn't have this lovely home, I wouldn't have this anything if I hadn't sorted out with who I was, who I felt I was. Like if I wasn't happy with who I was in that moment, and not I'll be happy when, I'll be happy this, yeah, I'm gonna go do this thing and I'm gonna get happy. It was like I'm happy with who I am. I'm kind, I'm a nice person, I feel like I have a lot of value without anything, not a monetary value, not a value to impart on others, but just a value to myself. That's where it really kind of came from, I think.
I'm interested in when you said like not having the I'll be happy when, but do you find that you have this kind of a push and pull? Like, put it this way, you're trying to attempt something really, really difficult, it would be a huge accomplishment. So do you have a bit of push and pull between the being content with where you are and also pushing yourself to be more?
Yeah, I feel like it's actually more of I'm happy with who I am, and I realize through that happiness that I have a lot of potential.
Yeah.
And so I feel like then also I have a duty to myself. So I have a duty to myself to see out this potential if I have it. So, and I feel like that's actually in everybody, right? It's so weird to think about this, like, but like I always felt, even when I was like drinking and smoking and just womanizing and doing all that shite, there was the reason why it hurt me so much, because I always knew I had potential to do something. Didn't know what the fuck it was. I always had an interest in doing something and having an adventure, and going out and doing things. But I just never backed myself to do it because there was that negative voice saying to me, and that negative voice kept me so comfortable as well, because it like those negative voices, they don't really like when you try new shit.
Yeah.
And they don't really like when you push the boat out, or you get uncomfortable, or you feel out of your depth, or you feel new or shit at something. So I feel now I'm like I want that Conor, when it's all done and dusted, to be at when I'm about to leave this earth, that I kind of go, yeah, you gave it socks, you know what I mean, and you did everything.
So there will be a lot of people listening to this who probably are in a similar situation that you were in and trying to get out of it and trying to challenge themselves to do more difficult things, live up to their potential, whether that's taking on a 5k or a marathon or running a business or doing something difficult, something that's out of their comfort zone. And a lot of time, like you said, that they'll get these negative voices in their head, I'm not good enough to do this, and then they'll internalize that and they'll self-sabotage in some way. Maybe they'll go back on the drink the night before a race, or they'll skip that exam and pretend they're sick or whatever it is. So did you ever have any of that along that kind of journey out of there, that you were self-sabotaging, or do you find that you are able to internalize what's going on now as you're challenging yourself even more?
Yeah, I feel like when I was making my way through it, it was like a very much a fucking paw through the dark, Like I didn't have anything figured out. And I still don't think I have it figured out. I don't think there's any figuring it out, really, there's fucking life just happens, But I feel like I'm far better at coping, right? So like that's probably a different thing. Couldn't cope at all with anything before, it was just like any minute occurrence in my life, it just fucking caused me to spiral. And that's the self-sabotage really is like, self-sabotage for me came in a lot of like a dogpiling type situation. It's like, something bad happened. Well, fuck a load of shit down on top of that now, because now I'm fucking drunk And now it's 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm ringing the wrong person, and it's fucking 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm throwing something through that glass window, or I'm fucking doing something stupid, and I'm, you know what I mean? So that's what happened. That's what would happen for me. It's like, well, life's shit. I better just fucking amplify how shit it is. Do you know what I mean? So when I started to, I really actually took, I started running in 2018. The whole year of 2018 was actually the biggest shit show ever, right? So it wasn't running that saved me. It was when I was like 2019, I was like, something fucking switched. I was like, I need to fucking change my life. And what it actually was, it wasn't running. Running, again, it gave the environment for it to grow. It was the water and the earth and the sunshine that allowed the thoughts to germinate. And what it was forgiveness. To fucking forgive myself for all of those fucking times when I would dogpile on myself and where I would do shit things and I would exacerbate, you know, all of the feelings of feeling the negative feelings in my head. And I had to forgive myself, and I had to accept regrets. I had to accept an awful lot of regrets, because like when you start to talk to yourself and you start to get really honest, and you start to look at the times when you weren't the best person to you or to other people, and you start to realize and you go, okay, you know, I forgive you. Like speaking to myself, like the amount of times I had this conversation with Conor, I forgive you, man. Like, you know, your intention was not to do this. Your intention was not to do these things, and you know, it wasn't that I was ever a fucking, you know, a murderous fucking, you know, whatever. It wasn't that it was that deep. It was just that, like, there was just certain times when I didn't act well for me, you know, and I didn't act well for others either, you know, and it like that was where like this element of forgiveness had actually come in, and when I started to forgive is actually when I less wanted to sabotage. Because I felt like I was building something. So if I felt like I'm building something strong, I don't want to be fucking tearing myself down at the same time, you know?
Well, I even find with clients, even in terms of, you know, improving their relationship with food and just getting them active and stuff like that, a lot of times the ones that are finding it most difficult to make positive changes are the ones that are riddled with shame and guilt over even the smallest things. It's very hard to make positive change if you're just constantly berating yourself.
Yeah, for sure. You have to be on your own team. I say that all the time, like, you have to be on your own fucking team. And the thing about it is, right, and people will know this, especially Manchester United supporters will know this, sometimes you have to fucking stick it out with your team, and you have to fucking stick it out with and sometimes you will do things that are not good for the team, but you have to realize that most of the time, like, and this, my mother says this all the time, she's a psychotherapist, and she has an awful lot of good insight. She was like, no one wakes up to have a bad day. No one wakes up to have a bad day. Everybody is trying to put their fucking best foot forward, and for some of those people it's highly irrational behavior, and for some of those people it's, you know, highly rational and logical behavior, and the thing is the one person can't differentiate what the other person is feeling, because in their own mind this is the right thing to do, you know what I'm saying? So like anybody that is feeling that, you know, that it might be listening to this, is like, you're never, like, no team wins every game. No team is fucking invincible. No team gets no goal scored against them. Life fucking takes shots all the time. And it's just about, at the end of the day, can we be fucking 51% and the bad shit be 49? Do you know, kind of?
Yeah. Roger Federer has a brilliant breakdown of all the sets he's played over his years of tennis. Obviously one of the greatest players ever, and like he breaks it down to like he only won like 54% of the points that he played, which is insane, because he literally dominated tennis for so many years.
So long, like, exactly. That's the thing. It's, and you even look like Michael Jordan. I'm a Michael Jordan fanboy, like, and you know, like, he's missed hundreds of shots at last minute buzzer beaters, like, do you know what I mean? But he'll be remembered as one of the best buzzer beaters in the world, because he was there when it mattered, you know. And that's the thing. It's like, if you're there for yourself when it matters, you actually get through anything. If you're on your own team and you feel like no matter what happens, good, bad or indifferent, like maybe you've gained weight or you've, you know, falling off the wagon of looking after yourself. It's like, that's okay, like it happens. But it's about what we do now. What we do right now when we're feeling at our lowest is actually, because that's, again, it's like, you feel low, you want to do that self-sabotage thing where you go, well, I haven't looked after my day for a week, I might as well go into pints. Yeah. Do you know that kind of way? And that's that destructive attitude. And again, this is not something that's maybe covered in the, there's loads of the nutritionists and fitness people, and they talk about what to eat, but I don't think we talk enough about like the why to eat. Why are we doing this? We're doing this because we deserve it and because we want to best for ourselves, not just we want to fit into the dress. Yeah, we want to fit into the dress, but it's a bigger thing. It's like we deserve to be that person. Do you know what I mean? To be to ourselves. You know what I mean?
100%.
So,
tell us a little bit about the next challenge that you have coming up, just for the viewers who don't know.
To break it down in a nutshell, the distance is 565 kilometers. And the record is 3 days, 1 hour and 55 minutes. So I'm going to try and do it in 3 days.
What's the route? Where do you start? Where do you finish?
Start in Malin Head, up in Donegal.
Yeah.
Now, you can do it either way, whichever way you want, but I wanted to finish in Cork. So
of course.
Malin Head down to Mizen Head in West Cork. And so basically that's the challenge in a nutshell, really, of what it is. It's a lot. So it's going to be like you'd be doing 3 100-mile races plus. So you'd be about 360 miles. So it's 120 miles a day.
Is this this is non-stop for the 3 days, obviously?
Basically, yeah. You could sleep for sure. I think the guy who set the record slept for 70 minutes. And now when I did the 200-miler, I slept for 30 minutes. And I feel like that's not really, that's a tiny portion of it. So the actual sleeping and resting or whatever, I don't think that's the biggest deal is how you you maintain your energy for those 3 days. Yeah. And it's about the bodily conditioning as well. So you just need to be strong throughout. And the thing about, and this is a lot of people know, people are going to disagree with me on this. It's a bit of controversy now. This is a clip. So you can put this up as a clip, right?
Soundbite this.
Right, soundbite. Strength training for runners. I think we sometimes overdo it. I think a lot of strength training for runners is actually running and running workouts. So specifically doing running workouts. So hill repeats, interval sessions, all of those things should condition your body to be strong with running, right? And so you need to do all of those workouts. So you need to do your easy runs. You need to do these things to build up the body. And you can go to the gym if you want to, and you can cross train and all those kind of things. But the main thing for me is just to the main thing for me now is not to get ahead of myself.
Yeah. Well, this is what I was about to ask you. In terms of you just having hip surgery, what are the limitations for you right now? What can you do? What can't you do?
So you can kind of basically do everything except for running and anything that would really require tons of hip mobility. So lateral squats and lateral one-legged squats and all those kind of things, which I'd never really do anyway, but all of those movements that would stretch the hip a lot are kind of out the door for the moment, right? We're 4 weeks today, so 4 weeks post-op today. Yeah. So I have 2 more weeks until I can start doing running sets, which is going to be very, very low volume, 1 minute on, 1 minute off running kind of thing for a while, and just build that up again. So I'm limited to the point where I can do cross trainer, elliptical, the bike, ski erg, which I did today really for the first time, just to kind of get more of that kind of hip propulsion kind of movement get in there, and then loads of swimming. So after I leave here now today, I'm going down to the pool again to do 700 meters in the pool, and it's not a lot, but it's just you building it up to where before I do my first run, my kind of goal is to swim for 1 kilometer. So I used to do that all the time, but now it's rebuilding the hip to do that, and so I've markers along the way, the whole way. So it's all about getting to that next marker. It's not about running the length of Ireland yet. It's about just getting to the next. So breaking it down, I work with a lot of people on goal framing and goal setting. Yeah. And talk about your dream goal, your performance goal, and then the process goals that lead to the performance goal, right? And you're hoping then that the performance goal will lead to the dream goal, you know? So like a sprinter would have a dream goal of being the fastest sprinter in Ireland. That's very vague. Like it's a vague goal, right? So like there's loads of other people running, so you don't know what it is, what's the time, when do you want to do it by? All of those things come under the performance goal. So let's say his performance goal then is to shave 0.1 of a second off of his 100 meter time, right? That's a performance goal. It's okay, right? So what's the process to that? What's the process goals that we need to, well, we need to do sprint related training 3 times a week. Okay, when are we going to do it? We do it Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays. Okay, what time? We do it at 6 p.m. Yeah, and you get more specific and specific each time. So that's what I'm doing each week now, is like getting more and more specific. So like within my time, I built from 5 minutes on an exercise bike all the way up now to where I'm 30 minutes on an exercise bike and 30 minutes on elliptical, and doing 5 sets of 30 seconds on a ski erg fast, right? That happened by adding 3 minutes each time I got on the bike. And then once I got to 30 minutes on the bike, starting with 5 minutes on the elliptical and building 3 minutes at a time. Then once I got to that point, then it was about adding resistance each time I'm on the bike and adding resistance each time I'm on the elliptical, to the point where now I'm scaling through not time but resistance. And then also then while doing that, it's scaling my time in the pool. So you're trying to get up to a kilometre. So then by the time you hit a kilometre, you should be 6 weeks in, and that's when you start your running sets. So it's calculated enough, you know.
So and there'll be people listening to this and they'll have goals set, and they might even, you know, obviously the biggest mistake people make is set a goal and then that's it. They don't do what you've done and reverse engineer it down to the minutiae. But what I wanted to ask you then is, with a massive goal like this, which is obviously going to take so much of your time, so much effort, so much dedication, so much sacrifice, and a lot of the times people set goals but they don't ask themselves what they have to sacrifice in order to achieve that. So that's what I'm curious to ask is, have you thought to yourself, okay, this is what I want to achieve, what are the things that I need to sacrifice in order to achieve this?
So you talk about your priorities. So your priorities is what, like, to inform any goal, there's loads of different aspects as well that I would work with clients on, right, as well. So values would be one, and priorities very similar, right? So like your values and your priorities could point you in the direction that family is the number one priority, and you value family. So when you talk about your goal and or what you're going to do, inform that by what way you operate within the family unit. So that's one of the biggest things for me, was I fucking love spending time with my son more than anything. And so I know that I'll be up at like 5 o'clock in the morning because I want to get the long run done in and around the time he's eating breakfast and I'm coming home. So then I have time with him. Do you know what I mean? And then I've got client calls and whatever the case may be during the days, and then I spend the time with him. I'll do his bedtime, bathe him, brush his teeth, get him into bed, read books, do the stuff that we love doing together, and then offer like the second run of the day sometimes, you have double days or whatever. So I know that like when it comes to that time, like right now it's handy, like I'm not training as intensely as I would. So it's much easier. But when you have that framing where you let your values and your priorities set your intention, then you realize that within the goals you have to have healthy boundaries. Because and this is the thing, the crossroads I came to with Thai boxing was, is it taken from my life or is it giving something to my life?
There's always a cost benefit ratio to anything.
And there's always going to be certain times where it'll take. And there's always going to be certain times where it might cause friction within you and your partner. And that's just the way it happens, and you have to be able to accept that too. So you can't have it all, you can't have your cake and eat it too. I can't do all of this stuff and expect it to not affect the people that are in my life, So you just have to fucking sometimes, like the old adage of just doing your fucking best comes into play. You know what I mean?
But even then, you even gave the example of there that, right, you had to essentially hang up the gloves and say, right, this is taking too much of my time for other priorities.
Not even time. It was not even a time thing for Thai boxing. It was just an actual. It made me hate myself. Fucking made me hate myself.
In what way?
Well, I had body dysmorphia because I was losing weight so much. I couldn't fucking. Had a a horrifically unhealthy relationship with food, which lasted for years after I left. So I was losing so much weight. It was unhealthy. I was crying all the time when I was losing weight because my fucking body was my hormones were so out of fucking whack.
Yeah.
I was fighting and I was winning sometimes. I was losing sometimes. I was getting severe concussions, which was not helping my mental state either. So it drove me insane.
Yeah, I have to interrupt you. So I had the last guest that I had on is a Muay Thai coach who's a nutritionist and trains them, and he literally just spoke about how, you know, nearly 80% of the fighters are suffering with disordered eating and body image issues, and nobody really talks about it.
Oh, it's a huge fucking issue.
Yeah,
it's a ginormous issue. Because then, have you seen? Do you know the fucking fat shaming that goes on in the fucking in the fighting universe is ginormous. Any fighter that packs on a bit of weight afterwards, he's all over the place. Look at how he's fucking ballooned up. Like, he used to be so shredded when he was fighting and all this type of shit. You're picked apart, like, you know. Not that I was, but I'm just saying that it's just it's the attitude
prevalence
thing.
Yeah.
Like, even when sometimes I'd have taken a break from training now, like let's say college exams, and I take a couple of months off, I might gain a couple of weight. You're fucking eating at the desk and you're studying and shit. You put on a bit of weight and you get back up then, like, and you're in the change room and the boy's like, fucking hell, boy, you've some way to go if you want to fight again. I'm like, all right, boy, it's my first training session back, like, fucking relax. Do you know? So it's pressure, and then it's also pressure then from yourself. That's the main thing, really. Like, and that's the insight really towards anything is, yeah, people can say anything, but it's how you interpret it and internalize it really that makes it more powerful. You know.
What are some of the common mistakes people make when trying to take on challenges of ultra running? Because I know that's essentially what you coach people. So when people come to you looking to take on some big challenge in terms of a long distance run, what are some of the mistakes you see them make?
They scale and build too fast, so they ask too much of themselves too early. I did that too. Everybody does it. Everyone does it in lots of areas of life. You just shoulder too much. Like, you see it in the gym, people ego lifting and all this kind of stuff. Like, you just want to fucking bench 100 kilos or whatever. Do
you ever ask yourself that question about the challenges that you have coming up?
Yeah, oh geez, I definitely think I've bitten off a lot.
Yeah.
I think the only way to see if I've bitten off more than I can chew is fucking do it. Like, you know. Yeah. So yeah, I feel like for me, like, it's you know. And this is something that I was only recently kind of brought into my mind. For me, it's like, I love storytelling, and I love the art, and I love theatre, and I love the idea. That's why I love hip hop music so much. Is there's fantastic poetry and storytelling within it, right? And I feel like that has injected so much of my life, because if you look at it, like, the day I got the surgery, I literally just fucking came to from the anaesthetic, and I announced that I was going to do this.
Yeah, you did. Right? Yeah, I remember that. It's like, this lad's a madman.
So it's the Rocky story. This guy's going to, like, this. He's going to fucking fight Apollo Creed. You know the thing. So I feel like this is my Apollo Creed. In a way, but I feel like I want it without saying it all the time. You can do it. But for it to be a beacon for anybody who's like, well, don't fucking put any barriers in your own way. You know what I mean? You will. Loads of people are going to try and put barriers in there for you anyway.
Yeah.
Just don't fucking do it yourself. And again, I have a very, very good relationship with failure. I don't really care whether I fail or not at this. And you know, people would say, would that not make you quit in your weaker moments? It's like, no, because I have no problem with failing if I've given fucking everything. If I can honestly look at myself in the mirror and say, I gave fucking everything to do that, and I failed, then I have to go back and I have to try and see what I can do differently. Do you know what I mean? So I don't. That me dancing with failure and success it doesn't bother me at all, right? And yeah, I could have. It's a huge challenge. Like, I'm already a month into the amount of training I've given myself, right? And I'm only fucking cycling and shit. Like, you know, I've not even started running yet. But that's the type of stuff that kind of gives me this. Like, this is not the hardest thing that anybody's ever done, by any means. Like, not even fucking close. The amount of suffering and the amount of horrible things that happen to people, and they come through it. This is nothing, like, really, you know what I mean? In the grand scheme of things, it's running. I'll have huge support from people. I'll have huge support from my family. I'll have every single advantage that I possibly can have. I'll have the best nutrition. I'll have the best gear. I'll have the best runners. I'll have the best of everything. So people don't see that though. Mm-hmm. They just think, this guy's gonna fucking have to run this much. I go, yeah, but like I've got so many things on my side, so many things helping me. And yeah, and I can't wait to get into the thick of it. But I have to stay in the process. I have to, like, as I've been saying all the time, chop wood, carry water. Which means, like, it doesn't matter about the thinking, it's doing the work. And when you're doing the work, you don't think about anything else.
Is that a mistake that clients of yours make when they're training for an ultra marathon?
I can literally scope out nearly what's going to happen from when I meet somebody to when they run their race.
Yeah.
They'll come in, they'll have an idea of what to do. I'll tell them what to do. They'll think it's too little. Then they'll struggle to do what I've told them to do because it's a lot. Then they'll get to the race, they'll do the race, they'll fucking enjoy it most of the time, and they'll finish it and they'll go, that was great. That's what happens. People come in and they think, I'm going to ask them to run 100-kilometer runs and stuff, or 50k runs and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, no, be consistent. If you can fucking do these weeks and get through this and stay in the process and not think too far ahead and not fucking think, we will get there.
Why do we overestimate what we can do?
Because we're human beings and we're stupid, you know, and I think I'm even stupid as well from time to time. Like even tonight I was saying to you, I went white because I was just on the fucking skier going absolutely ham. Yeah. That just happens, like, you know what I mean? So like, and you have to realise, like, again, it's just intentions as well. It's like your intentions are always in the right place.
Yeah.
I mean, any of these things, and I think that's the thing. I never judge people that come into me, you know, things. Like I've had people that have come in that have tried to do ultras and failed, and I've asked them about their training. Go, like, I was so sure I was going to do it, like, because I had done 65k the week before, and I was like, why are you doing 65k a week before you take on the race? All this kind of stuff. And then they kind of think they're just worn out and overtrained. Yeah. I always say to people, right, and this is something I actually learned from Thai boxing, I prefer to be a little undertrained than a little overtrained.
Yeah.
Because at least if you're undertrained, you're not going to be sapped. You know, if you're undertrained, you're not going to be sapped of energy, and you're not going to be overly confident. Yeah. So which will kind of keep you in check, right? So you're going to be fucking, I haven't really done, as much as I think, for this, so I'm going to fucking back off. Whereas like I've done fucking loads for this, and it's like I should feel great, and then they start off, and then they're fucked a third the way through, and they're honestly, there's really no coming back. Does
it happen a lot of time where, like, even if, let's say, people do the training and they stick to the plan, but then on the actual race day they get overexcited or they get overly confident, and then they push past what they've been doing in training, maybe, and that affects them in terms of finishing the race?
That happens, and I feel like sometimes, you learn through dealing with clients, as you know yourself, right? Like, so I do make it my business, like, when it's the first time they're doing this distance, I'm like, look, you don't know what it feels like to be at this distance. You don't know if someone's doing their first 100k, it's like, you don't know what it feels like to be 80k in and have 20k to do it, go. So just remember that, like, take it handy. Like, there's plenty of time to become a master of ultra running. Let's just try and get this finished. You know what I mean? Because if people get disheartened, if they DNF, if they did not finish, and they get disheartened, they might never revisit this thing before. But if they finish and they go, oh, I could have done that faster, that's a great place to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Really.
You want to feel like you had more in the tank rather than you've just hit the wall.
And so, like, that's the thing. It's like, so, for people that do want to get into this thing, like, it takes time. Something I didn't also really think about when I first started as well. I just went into it. But, again, that idea comes into my mind is like, is it taking or giving? Do you know? Ultra running is tough, but it should give you something. Whether it's introspection or whether it's, some sort of a challenge. But if it's making you feel bad about yourself, then that's when the questions have to be answered. And I've never had that with ultra running, but I've promised my wife, I promised everybody, if I ever had that about running, I'd quit. If I ever had the feeling that it was making me feel lesser, or it was making me, it made me not want to be good to myself, I'm fucking gone. Like, You know what I mean? I doubt it would ever happen, but like that's really where it's at for me. Like when I take on a client, I ask them questions that I don't think many people would ask them. Like, you know, so like it's like about, do you have kids? Do you what hours do you work? Like there's people there that I take on. They're like fucking dental surgeons and stuff, and they work mad hours and they're high stress jobs and stuff. And I'm like, we can't have this guy running 6 days a week. He'd just implode. You know what I mean? So you have to work around that. So you have to that's the challenge, That's the challenge of coaching somebody, is making it fit into their lives.
Do you think a lot of the coaching that you do is then not even specifically around the training or the nutrition? It is around their lives and around the person rather than the project.
Yeah, and I think that you touched there on the nutrition side of things. That's the part where people don't realize that, like, and people's, it's a well-known kind of a phrase within the ultra running community. It's like, it's less of a running competition and more of an eating competition, right? So if you can fuel yourself properly, it is actually half the battle.
Yeah.
Because if you train really, really hard, but you're not putting, like, you could have a high-performance car. If you have a tenner petrol in it, you're not fucking going far. So it doesn't matter. You could be the most finely tuned machine you've ever seen, but if you're not able to put petrol in the tank,
is that a big mistake you see?
It's not a mistake I see from my clients, but it's something that I have to educate them on. But it's normal, like, because I have to educate myself, because I've made every mistake in the book, and I've underfueled.
Do you find that you still make mistakes that you even warn clients about not making?
Still to this day?
Yeah.
Not really. I try not to. Like, I always, like, even today I had 80 grams of carbohydrates in a drink tonight, just for my workout. I try and, like, even if I'm not doing super stellar stuff right now and I'm just getting onto the elliptical and the bike and stuff, I still, like, I'm training my gut right now.
Yeah.
And so I do want to be a do as I do. Type of coach, not a do as I say. So, like, I do want to be an example for people as well, to kind of go, look, this is what, like, I can tell you straight up, because of my hip, I haven't been able to prepare for fucking anything. I got close to doing a sub-3 marathon strictly because I trained my gut to fucking take on fuel. I finished in the top 10 in the Kerry Way last year. I did fucking barely any training. I got 1-2 weeks, I think, where I hit 100k, and that was it. And I was doing this was a 190k race. And the only reason why I was able to keep such a steady pace is because my fueling was perfect, because I had trained it into me. So that's what's given me such a belief in it. It's like, I've tried and tested this stuff myself. I know how it works, and I know that it can work, And there's a guy, I give a shout out here to Evan Lynch, who I've worked with on this. I have a meeting with him next Monday to start the Run Ireland kind of nutrition path with him, which is different again, because I'll be running for 3 days, and you can rub into things like rhabdomyolysis, where your, like, body just doesn't have the ability to digest food anymore, or you know what I mean, or you can lose proteins and your bones can weaken, and all this type of stuff happens. So there's loads of things in play then with that, So, and I want to use that then to educate myself further, on this whole thing.
Yeah, you're basically trial and testing on yourself.
For sure, I'm my own guinea pig.
Yeah. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about fatherhood, because I know that's something that's really changed and impacted your life. So, do you think coaching clients and going through this yourself has set you up to be more equipped for fatherhood?
I think it's the other way around. Really, I think fatherhood has given me such a to be very honest and very fucking right in here, I didn't know how to love or accept love for a very long time. And I remember actually in 2019, when I had started this journey of self-forgiveness, that we took on an autism assistance dog. Right, my family did, my dad did, right, and he was this little puppy. And as I was going through this journey of forgiveness for myself, I felt like a huge amount of compassion for this dog, right, tiny little puppy, tiny little thing. And we were training him to be a companion dog for a child with autism, right, and it was so strange, but I grew to love him. right? And I felt like I had distanced myself so many times. Yeah, I'd loved people in the past. Obviously, you love your parents, you love your family, and all of these things. But and I had loved some people in the past, but I had made myself cold, you know, through experience, and then thinking that was the best way to stop myself from feeling bad anymore, was to shut down that part of my emotion, not get attached to anything, you know. And so I had kind of been able to show this dog compassion and to empathy and all of these things that I'd never been able to give anybody before. And that was my first time of kind of actually letting that in. And then I had met my wife, and straight away I was like, this is it. I never felt like that before. I was like, this is fucking it. And like, this is the one. And people talk about that, you know, it's like love at first sight. Honestly, just immediately was like, I knew that what was going to take place. I hadn't even kissed her, and I told my dad, I was like, look, if you want it, because she was coming down to Cork, and I invited her over to have dinner, and I was like, if you...
Is she from Wicklow? Is that why you...
She's from Meath.
Meath, yeah.
But she was living in Wicklow at the time.
Oh, okay.
And I met her in Wicklow when I was going around the country.
Okay.
Climbing mountains and all that kind of caper. And then I was like to my dad, I was like, be nice to her, because if you ever want grandchildren from me, be nice. And this was like before I'd even fucking, you know, went on a date with her like properly. And then 2 years later we have our son, and like that was like a huge kind of a thing of, I've been constantly trying to but figure out like not how to be better. It's a weird way of saying it, but you know, like, am I the man I want to be? Not runner or fucking what people see on Instagram, but like, am I a caring, accepting, compassionate, empathetic, strong-minded person that can give this child the best father that he could have? And that question, and being asked that question, has given me such a calmness with my son that every day I learn something from him. And no one's perfect, right? No one is perfect and things. But what I have tried to do is try to learn from the elements. My parents had the best of intentions with us all the time, right? They were very angry people, right, when we were younger, very angry with us. And you know, we were probably bollockses as well, like, you know what I mean? But they were very angry with us. Like, and their kind of thing was, I want to protect you, so I'm going to be cross, and I'm going to fucking, you know, I'm going to drill in, you don't do this, you don't do that, you can't do this, fuck, don't piss me off. And I didn't want to be that. I didn't want my fucking son walking on eggshells. Yeah. Which has given me, and like, I've talked at length with my parents about this stuff now, like even my mother has become a psychotherapist and all since, like, you know, and all this stuff, and I see them with you know, their grandchildren, like, and they're kind of just not even the same people, you know, so they've grown a lot too, and we've talked about it at length as well, and there's a lot of forgiveness there too. But I feel like when I look at myself and as a father and my son and our process through that, I've always tried to give that idea of understanding where he's coming from. Even the most erratic, irrational things that children do, to just go, like today I was like, you know, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And then I was like, he had a packet of salt, you know, the Saxa salt thing, and he was like trying to pour it into his mouth, and like I was like, look, I'm gonna have to take this from you now, because this is salt and I can't have you eating salt. I have to take care of you, I'm your dad. That's the kind of way I talk to him, right? He doesn't understand that yet, but I take it off and he starts bawling, crying, and then I'm trying to comfort him and all this kind of stuff, and then I'm saying things like, do you want a bolly, or do you want to go to the TV? And then I finally say, like, and I say this all the time, it's like, you just want to be 1.5, don't you? You know, you just want to be 1.5.
You have to meet people where they are.
And this is it. But I can't expect him to be 10 years old when he's 1.5. I was like, you just want to be 1.5. You want to cry, and you want to have to, you know, you want to have your time. And all I want to do there is just be there and accept it and kind of go, yeah, it's okay, we'll work through this together, we'll find a way. And this is the thing about kids, is like they'll teach you so much about yourself that it's not even funny, you know.
So I had Sammy Dowling on the podcast before. He's the strength and conditioning coach for the Dublin GAA. And I asked him the same question. I said, what has a fatherhood taught you about coaching, or the other way around? And he said something quite similar. It was like, when he was talking to his son Jacob, it's like, you're talking to him when he's 4 years old. You have to talk to him like he's a 4-year-old, or you have to talk to him like he's a 6-year-old. And it's like, you have to meet the child at the age that they're at. And then it's the same with the athletes that he works with. Like, he could be talking to, a 12-year-old girl, or an 18-year-old girl, or a 24-year-old male. Like, and a big thing about coaching is being able to communicate with the person in front of you, and understanding that they're not you're not gonna be able to speak to them the same way, or expect to have the same kind of communication, and being able to speak to them at different stages of their life almost.
Yeah, I think I try and talk to him like I do actually talk to anybody, right? So I like the way I talk to him. I'm like, I have to take this. I want to give him a reason for the reason why I'm taking this thing off of him, right? And it's not just like, give me that. You shouldn't have that. You don't have that. Because that's what would have happened in my, thing. I'd have been snatched out of my hand, and I'd have been fucking shooed into the next room, or that's the way it would have happened. Because it's like, not seeing that it's a child, so, but I do want to say to him, like, I'm going to take the salt off you, because you can't drink salt, because it's not good for you, and I have to look after you. I'm your dad, and I have to look after you. And it's not because I'm the boss, or I'm this and that, and that's never what I wanted. Even as he grows up, it's like, not because I'm the boss, it's like, I'm your dad, and my job is to look after you, and to make sure that you're okay, and to make sure that everything is okay. So I'm going to take this off you. And then you have to fucking meet the child's reaction, you know what I mean, and kind of realize it's fucking, he's not even 2, so if he has that type of reaction, that's not an opportunity or a time for me to get stressed, because I see that an awful lot. It's like, I don't want to blame or point fingers, everybody's trying to do their best here with parenting, but I do see that reaction from the child causes an opposite reaction of the parent, which might even end up exacerbating what's happening with the child. So I feel like, ultra running, and like even my time in Hell Week and those high stress situations have taught me an awful lot about being a parent as well. Because I realized that, like, in those fucking situations when things are kind of going to shit and when things are not going right, the last thing you want to do is stress out. You want to be calm, and you want to just be very clear in your communication, whether it's to yourself or to anybody else. Like, even if it's somebody in an aid station, you're 100 and fucking odd miles into a race or whatever, and you're in an aid station, you go calmly say, look, I have a blister on my foot, can we pop it? And then can we get some talcum powder, and can we get new pair of shoes on? So you just want to be able to, and that has taught me an awful lot about, like, handling stress. And then relaying it then to my child, like, to kind of go, I'm not going to be stressed. You're not going to feel stressful energy from me. You're going to feel, understood. Being
the common voice, and I suppose that works well even with a client-coach relationship. So let's say your client's absolutely freaking out about, not being prepared or whatever. The last thing they need is from you is to freak out, and to relay the stress that they have.
For sure, like I have a girl who's preparing for a race in Kerryway Ultra, and she's had sciatica symptoms, and she's 2 weeks away from the race, and we just had to kind of talk through that, and I was like, look, and this is where I suppose the mindset coaching side of things kind of comes in. Then when you're talking to people on the ultra endurance scale of things, it's like, okay, what's the worst thing that could happen? The worst things that could happen, and again, it's a lot of things to do with tone as well, and how you talk to people and how you communicate that. Like, it's like, what's the worst that could happen? And it's like, maybe they might kind of say, oh, I don't do the race. I'm like, okay, worst things that happen, you don't do the race. Is that the last race you'll ever do? And trying to frame it for people, and that's what I kind of do with myself, really, as well. So, like, again, even when I was like, trying to rehab the hip, and then I'd realize the hip is not rehabbed and it's fucked again, to not go, oh, look at your fucking stupid hip now being a fucking, like, this is so shit, I should be fucking, back running again, and all this kind of stuff, and I have so many goals and I can't do them. That type of thought, it just doesn't go anywhere. It just goes and think, no, it's okay to fly off the handle to yourself for a second or two, but to realize, what, we're just gonna keep going. Life goes on, we get up, it's a new day, and we try and make a good go of it again. You know, so that's I think when I couldn't ever talk to anybody, clients, my parents, my wife, my son, in any way well if I wasn't talking to myself well first. So it all starts with the internal dialogue, and if I hadn't had those conversations of forgiveness and of trying to be on my own team and be my own best friend, couldn't have any other team members. Do you know what I mean? So that's where it all stems from, I think, is like, how do we talk to ourselves? How do we treat ourselves? Are we, you know, do we do things out of fear? Do we do things out of hate? Like I when I was a young fella, I was quite overweight, and I lost a load of weight from a place of hate, from a place of loathing, and from a place of, you know, trying to, you know, to change myself because I'm not good. Whereas now it's like, I'm doing it out of a place because I love myself, and I love doing these things and testing myself and seeing what's underneath, and do you know what I mean? So again, like it's not only having the fuel, like what's fueling the fire, but like what type of fuel is it? Is it positive or negative? You know, and that's another thing, like even your own clients there, like, you know, when they're trying to lose weight, it's like, where is it coming from? Are we doing it because I hate the way I look? Or are we doing it from a place of, I actually deserve to be healthy, and I deserve to have all these things in my life, and I deserve to work for myself, work hard for myself, and to give myself the best. And that's, you know, that if you can get to that point and you're doing it and you're talking to yourself in that way, you're fucking unstoppable, I think, anyway. You're just, if you're on your own side, doesn't matter what happens or what tries to shake it, you'll just find a way, like you'll find a way forward.
Can you tell me a little bit about is it cruman, is that how it's pronounced?
Cruman, yeah.
And is that is it a men's group?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So I started Cruman in November of 2022, and I had along this kind of journey of you know, this self-acceptance, I realized that there was lots of elements or needs that I was not meeting for myself. So I wasn't doing the things that I loved, and I wasn't doing the things that I enjoyed. Like I climbed Kilimanjaro when I was 17. I loved mountaineering. I loved those elements of, I wanted to join the army, I wanted to join the Ranger Wing, and I wanted to, you know, be a special forces operative and all these things. And then sure, look, life happens, and these notions get derailed sometimes, you know what I mean? And if you're not, and I wasn't in a confident place, or a place where you're going to be able to take knocks and get the fuck back up again, which I wasn't after a while, I was just kind of done really with fucking putting in any effort, then it doesn't happen. So I was looking back on all those times that I felt really most alive and most connected to myself, and a lot of the times I was outside. Even when I was younger, like, there was no one really living around me, you know, and I didn't go play any sports or go to school in my local town, so I know nobody. So I didn't have many friends as a kid, but I always found like a lot of solace in like rambling around the forests and stuff near my home when I was a young fella, and just being outside and just being away from the house, and just I really enjoyed it, and it was such a healing thing for me to be outside. And just thinking back on all of those times, like, you know, I was like, right, I need to, that's what I need in my life, is more adventure, more time outside, more, you know, time with myself. And like, that's still to this day, it's still something that I have to do. I have to get outside, whether it's with the dog or with my son. I have to be outside, I have to be doing things like that. And so when I started doing that, I realized all my friends that I was drinking with and all that kind of stuff didn't really enjoy doing that type of stuff, or they weren't at that stage of life yet. Yeah. And it wasn't that I grew away from them, but I just grew in a different way or a different direction. And I realized then that I was doing an awful lot on my own, and I was like, I can't be the only one. And I didn't mind that either, like, you know, just getting out and doing it on my own. But I wanted, if there was any other people that kind of was questioning about what way they wanted to live or what they wanted from their day to day, that they could have that outlet, or they could have an opportunity to get involved with it. So that's what Cruman is really, is like, wanted to get more lads connected, because I feel like the pub and, like, you know, and all of those older kind of Irish institutions that men gathered in, they're kind of gone now, like, really, like, you know, because people don't really drink as much anymore, or, you know, I think they're finding healthier outlets, you know, and I wanted it to be a place where men could get together and where they could connect, make friends, have fun, have the crack, tell jokes, tell stories, swap experiences, and grow the community. And it's fucking going amazing. It's in terms of going amazing well. I never wanted it to be about numbers.
Yeah.
When I talk about it growing well, I wanted I wanted depth to the community, and it has depth, and it's not just a surface level thing. So that's that, you know. So basically, if there's any dude that's listening to this right now, it's at cruman.ie is the page, and you can get involved with everything through there, and it's free.
I think it's massive because I keep on seeing stats coming up, but like insane stats about the amount of men, you know, in their 30s, in their 40s, who don't have a single friend anymore, and the loneliness epidemic that is rising. I don't know, obviously there's multiple reasons as to that, but you know, I think a lot of time when we're younger, we'll play sports or we'll go to the pub, and then people settle down, they have families, they stop chatting to their mates as much, that they don't realise that they don't really go out to them anymore. So having more kind of men groups like that, I think it's really important.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
obviously you see, I know you've been very vocal about it. You know, men's mental health at the moment, it isn't in a great place. The amount of young boys 25 to 35 that are killing themselves, and I think it's the biggest predictor of death at the moment in Ireland. So things like that are, I think, really, really important.
Do you know the thing about you know, you ever hear of the heart attack principle?
No.
Right, where like something almost catastrophic has to happen before we change.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The thing about suicide is people don't tend to get the heart attack principle. Yeah. They don't get the chance for something to go catastrophically wrong before it's too late. Right. So they don't. So if let's say someone's abusing their body, with food and drink and smoking and all that kind of stuff, they might have a stroke or a heart attack or something like that causes them to have this epiphany to, right, I gotta wake
get my shit together.
Get your shit together. Yeah. And it happens as well with sometimes with men, with that, when you're talking about with men that are in their 30s and 40s that don't have friends, their marriage breaks down.
Yeah.
Right? Marriage breaks down. You know, they become estranged from the family maybe, you know, and they're trying to, you know, have a relationship with their kids and stuff, but they realise that they're very lonely because, again, they've alienated themselves because they've never carved out that time. Yeah. And so, and there is time. Like anybody say, oh, I don't have the time for that kind of stuff. I'm like, well, how much time do you scroll on the internet and stuff? Do you know what I mean? So there's time. And look, there is also time where we just waste our own time. That just happens. We just waste our own time. Yeah. That's perfectly fucking. Sometimes as well, I even feel like that. Even to this day, I have this element of retreating for me, where I kind of want to shut off, and I kind of don't want to be the fucking high performance, fucking do the shit all the time, and you just want to shut off, right? So, I completely understand that, but like that element of it is like men. That's that car crash as well, where or the heart attack where. Let's say your marriage breaks down and then you're forced into this thing of trying to make friends or make a social life for yourself. It's like, let's try maybe get there before those things happen, and maybe the relationships will improve and things would happen, and you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I feel like just more outlets for people to be connected in that way, and like then there's friendships and other groups that form out of Cruman. Yeah, you know, outside Cruman, which is the goal. Yeah, is to have people that are fucking friends in and out of the group. Yeah, do you know, so like that for me is like the be all and end all of this whole thing. It's just that lads get an opportunity to fucking laugh and joke and have fun, and like then again, it's just like it's so funny the people you come across. Like there's comedians there's people that own marketing companies, there are people that are like they do astrophotography. They go to 4 o'clock in the morning to the Sally Gap and take pictures of the sky. Brilliant people, like, you know, and that's the thing. It's like there's just such a mixed bag, and I that's what I love about it. Is like there's just, you never know what you're going to get, like, you know. You're
networking with people you never would have beforehand, because you know it's usually all right. You made your circle of group when you're a kid. And a lot of times we then don't venture outside of that. So for sure, so going into groups like that is really important for that as well. Con, this has been unbelievable today. If people wanted to reach out to you in terms of coaching, let's say with ultramarathon running or, you know, mindset coach or anything like that, where can they reach out to find you?
The main thing, the main hub really is the Instagram page at @O'Keeffe, COKEEFFE. And all the links are through that, or you can email me on conorokeeffecoaching@gmail.com. And then if you want to get involved with Cruman, it's at cruman.ie, CRUMAN.ie. And any lad is welcome to do it. They're free, sponsored by Mars Pharmacy, who basically help us to put on these events. So yeah, like, and anybody that has listened to this and might have had a thought or something that they want to share with me, send me a DM. We don't have to work together, like, even if you just want to have a chat. I'm always open to people kind of coming in and giving feedback and stuff. So
yeah. Thanks for watching. If you like that episode and you want to see more content like this, make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you on the next one.